Good morning, everyone. My name is ANC Commissioner Cheryl Moore, represent Single Member District HCO5. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Douglas Community Center groundbreaking ceremony. Thank you. This is a proud and important day for our community for Ward 8. Today's groundbreaking represents years of listening, planning, and working together to make sure this space truly serves the people who live here. Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for your continued investment in Ward 8. Also, I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Trayon White, MC Build, DGS, and DPR for getting us to this stage. This moment is very personal for me as well. My mom, Elaine M. Carter, was a pillar in this community and dedicated her life to service, and I know she would be proud to see this investment. Today's groundbreaking shows what it is possible when we work together to create pathways that strengthen our community. With that being said, it is my honor to introduce our mayor, who has done Ward 8 proud over the last 12 years of her administration. Where's my mayor at? Please join me in welcome Mayor Bowser.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Ooh. Good morning. Please, let's give the commissioner a big round of applause. And let's raise up Elaine Carter's memory, her life, her legacy. Oh, man, do I have some stories about Elaine Carter? We all do. Absolutely. I mean, I'll just say I knocked on her door one day, and did I get an earful? Yes, we did, and God bless her. I am just really, really happy to be here. We were just chatting about how much space there is and how much opportunity there is to bring this parcel back to life in a way that is fitting for the community. I've had lots of discussions over the years about Douglas, and I'm just very, very pleased to be here today to talk about Douglas's next phase. I want to acknowledge your council member, Trayon White. Give Trayon, let's welcome the council member. The Department of General Services, led by Delano Hunter. Thank you, Director Hunter, who has just done an amazing job as our not only our real estate portfolio manager, but our construction manager for the district, and our facilities manager for the district, which includes how we energize all of these district buildings. So, Delano, I want to thank you for your leadership. And I also want to publicly thank you for all that DGS did during the most recent snow event to make sure that we could open. So thank you for that. It's a lot of public school parking lots to plow. Let me just start there. I also want to recognize Thenie Freeman, who is our Director of Parks and Rec. The best Parks and Rec in the nation, and I want to thank her and the entire DPR team for their creativity in making sure that not only are the beautiful buildings that are built here, but that they are filled with life and programming and taking DC residents of all ages to the next level. And so we are here as I have done in the last couple of days, because we recognize in the city and our nation we have experienced some loss for people who looked out for us, fought for us, and will be remembered fondly. So I know that you will join me in a round of appreciation for Reverend Jesse Jackson and Reverend Hagler. Reverend Graylin Hagler. So, and today, we are in a neighborhood known as Frederick Douglass, a mile away from Cedar Hill. And I am proud during our administration that we have erected a most fitting memorial to Frederick Douglass and the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge. And we pay homage to him when in the naming of our hospital in Ward 8 at Cedar Hill. And so we know the fight for statehood sometimes seems far off, but in many cases is just that close. And our state will also be named in his honor. So today we are representing what a $25 million investment looks like in replacing this facility. It was built in 1969, and now it will be a modern community center on 6 acres with upgraded outdoor amenities. It will be sustainable and in line with our environmental goals, and half of the contracts will go to our local certified business enterprises, representing more than $8 million in investment. And just over a week from now, and I so appreciate the commissioner's words about investments in Ward 8, and sometimes capital investments, you know, from funding to planning to construction to opening happens over our capital improvements plan. In Ward 8, we have been working diligently on all of those phases. And so now we are here to break ground. Next week, we will open the doors of a new Anacostia Recreation Center at Ketchum. We will have many ribbon cuttings lined up this summer, including Fort Grable, Fairby Hope Boxing Annex, as well as the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center expansion. So if that sounds like a lot of projects, it is. It is a total of $100 million investment in Ward 8 recreation centers over the past decade, and over $600 million in our recreation centers citywide. So we are very proud of what we've delivered in Ward 8 over the last 12 years. And we know that all of the people of all ages, children of all ages, as I like to say, will be able to take advantage of these great facilities. So, a little birdie told me we're 2 weeks away from Mayor Berry's 90th birthday. And I am always reminded of a promise that I made to him. And that was I would build on his work and do more in Ward 8 than any mayor was ever able to do. And that promise has been kept. So with that, I want to turn to your council member, Trayon White, followed by Delano Hunter and Thenie Freeman, and then we'll break ground.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for keeping your commitment to Ward 8. I don't take that lightly. I want to thank you, Commissioner Moore, for your service. Isha Foster Lee, I know she's here as well, been in a lot of community meetings here. But it's important that we be steadfast, because I remember years ago reading the newspaper, and Elaine Carter, as we call her, Grandma E, changed herself to a house here when they was doing construction and tearing down all the buildings here. And if you look at the Washington Post, you'll see her sitting by the last in the house, changing the house. You know, what she do, she go home at night and come back in the morning, go back, change herself again, as she's been there all night fighting for our people. And that's the spirit that she instilled in myself and all those who come underneath her leadership. I want to thank Director Freeman, Director Hunter for your leadership, DGS. I know Director Delano Hunter, you were here at DPR when we first started talking about this. And Director Freeman, you carried that torch on. But I'm excited about this, but I'm also disappointed, to be honest, because we can do more. There's nowhere in the country where you're spending $25 million on a recreation center and they don't have a gym. I'm just going to be real. And so we fought long and hard. You may not know this name, but it's a name called James Anthony Smith. It was a young man who was killed right over there for a pair of Jordan tennis shoes in 2017. And prior to becoming a council member, I worked for DPR, and I was a roving leader. And I remember sitting up here, and Coach Virgil had a team called the Ward 8 Buccaneers. And they was practicing all out here, over 150 kids. Now that team is no longer here anymore. And we in Ward 8 are home to the most youth out of anywhere in Washington, D.C., and our children deserve more. They are up against a whole lot in this city trying to fight, and we have some brilliant young minds, but we have to cultivate those minds by believing in them and investing into our future. And I think that we can do more. I talked to MCN, and I know Mayor Bowser has been committed to the projects in Ward 8, and she's done a tremendous job going above and beyond what she can do to provide services here in the Great Ward 8. But with this project, with $25 million, we should have a gym, point blank, period. And so it's my hope, I just talked to Johnny and Mayor Bowser, that we can continue to have a stronger vision for this community because our people deserve more. Because historically we got less. And so this is a mixed bag of feelings for me today while we're doing this groundbreaking. But I have to be honest with myself as a leader of this community. People expect more of me and they expect more of us. And so we have to deliver on our promises. And I'll digress there. But I do want to say, as Mayor Bowser leaves office, and I just want to say this to you, Mayor Bowser, you've been a tremendous leader. We haven't always seen eye to eye, and we have our moments. But in Ward 8, you always showed up for us, and we put money in the budget for this rec and other recs. We had our differences, but you delivered, not just with the recreation centers, but all the other facilities in Ward 8 from the hospital on down. So I want to say thank you, and we appreciate you. God bless. Thank you.
All right, good morning again, everyone. Good morning. My name is Delano Hunter, and I'm proud to serve as the director of the D.C. Department of General Services. And en route this morning, I began to think back to conversations we had about Douglas Recreation Center and projects in Ward 8 maybe 8 years ago. And I remember my conversations with Councilmember White, and we talked about the need to develop and deliver these projects. And I'm proud to be here as we break ground at Douglas. But don't go too far. We have a ribbon cutting at Anacostia at Ketchum Recreation Center. Mayor Bowser's talked about Fort Grubble, which is later this spring. Southeast Tenants and Learning Center later this summer. I don't go too far away because we have a brand new recreation center at Congress Heights. In fact, our recreation investments in Ward 8 are more than the other 7 wards combined. Our recreation investments in Ward 8 are more than the other 7 recreation centers combined. And that doesn't happen by happenstance. It happens through leadership. I want to thank Mayor Bowser for really correcting in Ward 8 recreation investments some historical inequities, right? Ward 8 once had what we call a co-located recreation model, right, where schools and recreation centers were combined. So when that model was abandoned in the 80s and 90s, it left Ward 8 with a deficit of recreation centers, but no more. So this represents an investment in Ward 8, an investment in the city and our children, youth, and our seniors for generations to come, and that's worth celebrating. So again, I want to thank Mayor Bowser for her leadership. My job is to thank folks, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to get out the way. I want to thank the community. I see my former colleague and friend Isha Foster Lee, who has been doing the work here in Douglas for decades. Thank you so much. Thank you to the commissioner. Thank you to the residents. Thank you to the neighbors for your patience. I know this has been a long time coming. I am happy to be here. Thank you to Director Freeman and her amazing team, Brent, Peter, and others. I want to thank the hardworking men and women that are helping to deliver this project. If you're a part of the design team from Studio 27 Architecture, please raise your hand if you recognize. I want you definitely to speak with them. They're doing great work. They have a vision for this space. Also, thank you to MCN Bill. Lisa, others, raise your hand if you recognize. I know there are a number of subcontractors, Strip Matters, and others that are doing the hard work here. Thank you so much in advance. Also want to thank my colleagues at DGS, Osei Headley, Margaret Thacker, John Stokes, Mike Etherton, and so many folks for their hard work here as well. What I'm excited is that it's not just a facility, right? We are building out the entirety of this nearly over 4-acre campus, right? You'll have a regulation football field with lights, so we can welcome that football team back. You'll have 2 full outdoor basketball courts. We'll have connectivity to this pool. In fact, the center itself will be 3 times what it was before. You'll have a playground. We'll have connectivity to the outdoor pool. If you look to the right of the pool, you'll see a slab that was covered with concrete maybe about 30 years ago, which was once the kiddie pool. We'll reactivate that space and it'll actually be a splash pad. There's a community garden. Nearly every square inch of this facility and this campus will be activated for recreation for generations to come. So I'm really excited about that and can't wait to deliver this project. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the podium my partner in recreation, and that's Director Thenie Freeman. Thank you.
I want to take a point of privilege and say one thing. I want to acknowledge Jimmy Jenkins. Raise your hand, Jimmy. Jimmy Jenkins has been an integral part of this community and activating this space when no one wanted to come up here. When he had basketball tournaments over here in the summertime and really made people want to come back in this community when people forgot about Douglas up here, and that's real. So I want to give a round of applause and thank Jimmy Jenkins for his leadership and bringing the community together and have all those events over the summer for free out of his own pocket, man, with no money, and really bringing the young people out here, making them feel welcome in this community again. So I want to thank you, Jimmy. Thank you.
All right, wake up, Ward 8. Wake up, Ward 8. Shake your shoulders now. We're talking about a brand new recreation facility and pool coming to this site right here. Wake up, Ward 8. Let's shake it off. Let's go. Listen, I don't know about you, but I'm extremely excited. So let me get my thank yous out the way because I get so excited I forget to thank people. So let me thank the people. First and foremost, Mayor Bowser, thank you. So when you talk about equity and access, the reason why we are the #1 park system in America for 5 years in a row, and actually 6 out of the last 7 years, is because of equity and access. And equity comes to funding. So Mayor Bowser has promises made, promises kept, as we all have said. So give it up for that. Come on, y'all. Shake it off. Move your shoulders, clap your hands. I promise you'll warm up. Councilmember Trayon White, thank you for being a staunch advocate. We don't always agree, but guess what? We do always agree because we both have the heart to serve. So it doesn't matter how it goes, and I promise you, you will love this recreation center that's coming to Douglas. Give it up for Trayon White. Isha Foster Lee. We will have a community garden at this site because of you and your advocacy. But I still hope I see you at the community garden in Ward 7. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Cheryl Moore, thank you. Thank you for the endless phone calls, the advocacy, just being a bridge connector and a peacemaker when it doesn't seem like, it's a whole bunch of ra-ta-ta. But thank you for being a steady force of reason. Thank you so much. To my team, Bria, Brent, Shada, thank you so much, DGS, Director Hunter, Michael, Allen, the Project Architect Studios 27, MC and Ben. Okay, we got that out the way. Thank you all. Thank you all. I'm really excited because, fun fact, this pool will mean number 8 in Ward 8. The largest amount of pools in any ward. The largest per capita. Give it up. Give it up. This will be the 8th pool in Ward 8, and we're truly excited about that. Also, a splash pad is coming to this site. We're excited about that. We're excited about the multi-purpose rooms that we can bring community together, the media center where we can record and do podcasting, the fitness center. Y'all done broke y'all New Year's resolutions, but you're going to have a place to come and restart it. The locker room, the field, the playground, the outdoor basketball courts because, hey, we want to have our youth active and doing things as you've done so many times, Jimmy. Thank you. We appreciate you activating that. The picnic areas and all the other amenities. And y'all know our motto, fun is serious business. So DPR is going to program the you-know-what out of this space. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mayor Bowser.
We can answer a few questions. Any questions? Yes, here.
There was so much discussion about multiple recreation sites coming online and soon this one here in Ward 8. So just can you talk about your vision once they are all open, including this site, what it'll be like for people in Ward 8 and what's available to them?
Well, I think It'll be great. It'll be great to have more and more updated community centers near everyone's home. So we have, you know, I think, what is the statistic? Every DC resident lives less than 1 mile from one of our sites, a pool, a recreation center, a park. So we really do have huge investments in public facilities across the city. So most people can walk to one of our facilities. And not every facility has everything, but we want people to be also close to everything. So you heard the amenities that will be at this site. Other sites, there will be, more or different amenities. So that's what we have across the city. And Ward 8, as has been mentioned, is getting its due in terms of upgrades and additions.
And then just following up on your emergency declaration request last night, can you just talk about the decision to make that for the Potomac River and the spill there and the expectations of help from the federal government?
I think we will always look for coordinated, ways to coordinate, let me say that, across state lines and federal and state lines. And we always look for ways to recoup what has been expended, whether it was D.C. government funds or D.C. water and D.C. water ratepayer funds. And an emergency will allow us to seek reimbursement for D.C. water. Yes.
Mayor, a follow-up to that question. I was reporting on this morning, talked to a D.C. resident by the Georgetown waterfront, and his response was that it sucks that this declaration is coming now. Thought it should have come sooner. Can I ask you, why is that coming now and after the president got involved in this?
Well, it is not as straightforward as you or others may think in terms of getting an approval for a declaration for a project that's not in your jurisdiction. And so I think that the president rightly signaled that that they could be helpful, especially financially helpful. But to your point, why it doesn't, nothing about the response changes because of the declaration other than, or it could change, but for sure, our ability to work with our federal partners on the financial implications of the response.
So is it your opinion then the governor of Maryland should have made the request first?
Oh, I think it's complicated, but we have the ability. D.C. Water serves D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. D.C. ratepayers support D.C. Water, as do businesses and entities in Maryland and Virginia. And I think it's very important that we try to keep them whole. Yes.
Mayor Bowser, I'm just wondering, somewhat following up on that, when I first asked you about this a month ago, you hadn't been briefed. Your city administrator dismissed it as a Maryland problem that had been contained. It took weeks after that before Department of Environment started doing expanded testing. And as recently as this week, your head of the Department of Environment dismissed the safety concerns of recreating in the river, going so far to say is it's safe to eat the fish. And so I'm wondering what a lot of people are asking in the public is what took so long for the D.C. government to take this as seriously as you are now taking it?
No, Mark, I have to correct you. We've always taken it seriously. You asked me a question, I'm responding. So my response is my response. You don't have to like it, but it is my response. We've always taken it seriously. When you first asked me about it, I didn't say I hadn't been briefed. I said I wasn't going to answer any questions about it. And that is always, and when my city administrator said it had been contained, it's very complicated about the temporary repair that had been made, but that's true. A temporary repair had been made. Okay, I'm not going to keep going back and forth. Any other questions? No, I'm answering you. You're shaking your head. I'm not going to do that, Mark.
Bowser, because it's been a month. This is the
All right,
first
just
time.
what is your question, Mark?
This is the first time the public has heard anything from you on this disaster that has.
Because DC Water has been communicating about the DC Water response. Declaring a public emergency does change our communications posture from the district. But I think you also have to be fair about their response. And perhaps they haven't clearly communicated that. And I think that everybody deserves for that to change, and that will change.
So last night, Deputy Mayor Pia, in the press briefing, when asked, because it seems like you're taking a more active and a more lead role in this, I think that's fair to say.
We've set up, and you are familiar, and the public is familiar with our emergency response apparatus. That's not to say that it hasn't been engaged, because it has, but it will be formally engaged with a public emergency.
So, but last night I asked several times of Deputy Mayor Pia, who is now in charge? Who's in charge? And she said repeatedly, nobody's in charge. And so I'm wondering if you can square that circle for us. I mean, who is in charge of is it DC Water is still the lead on this, or have you taken the lead now in this situation? Is DC taking the lead?
Mark, we have an emergency response regime that functions as a way to coordinate among all entities involved and engaged. We put it in place, for example, during COVID. We put it in place in other instances where the whole of government needs to move in the same place. And so we will have that, and I'm at the top of that structure in every emergency response. And in every emergency response, there's a lead responding agency. This one is a little bit different because the lead responding agency is not a DC government agency, but a quasi-government agency. So that's the only difference. Yes.
Thanks, Mayor. A few questions about this bill, too.
Sure.
So has the White House or FEMA responded to your letter from yesterday with any offers or any commitments about
I don't
funds?
think we have gotten a formal response yet.
And is there a timeline under which you expect that response?
I don't know.
Okay. And what were the discussions between you and Governor Moore and Governor Spanberger about who would, because my understanding is any of you could have sent this request to the president for this, because the disaster touches all jurisdictions. So why, in the end, was it you, and what were the discussions you had?
I mean, I think we have been kind of working on the idea this week. If we thought that we would get approved to advance an emergency request. I've had a conversation with Governor Moore about it to let him know that the district would likely proceed in that way. My staff has had staff-to-staff conversations with Governor Spanberger. Yes.
Sorry, just one more follow-up on your answer to Stephanie earlier to make sure I'm clear. Were you saying that nothing would have changed about the actual response, the bypass, the repairs, all the work that DC Water has been doing down at the spill site if you had declared an emergency earlier?
Yeah, I don't think so. I shouldn't say that in a declaratory way because, I don't know, maybe EPA would have been there to test, but EPA has been there to test. I think DC Water would still be the responsible agency for putting the repair in place. And the repair was put in place, and this does not mean to dismiss the enormity of the spill because it was an enormous spill. But I think they got it in place in 5 to 6 days, which is, as I understand from engineers who do this type of work, a pretty remarkable response. Now, that's not to say we still have a lot of concerns because repairs can fail. Spillovers can continue until the permanent repair is put in place. And I want you to take this generally, general response is the repair and getting to the planning for a permanent repair has not been slowed by an emergency declaration. What an emergency declaration speeds up in some ways is consideration for how we recoup costs. Yes.
Mayor Bowser, sorry, follow up on this bill as well. Mayor, DC Water has been evasive when asked if this would fall on DC Water customers. I know that this is a concern for you and obviously the reason why you took this step. What conversations are you having with DC Water so that, people that live in DC don't have to pay for these repairs?
Well, I've tried to address that question already. This is a DC Water asset. And if for people to understand, think of 72-inch wide pipe that's pretty old and very long. And I think everybody knows, if you don't know, the break in this pipe did not occur in our jurisdiction. So DC Water is responsible for fixing its pipe. And all of us who are DC Water customers, we are DC Water. There are DC Water customers in Maryland and there are DC Water customers in Virginia. And so part of what I also laid out in my request to the White House is, yes, let's deal with this. But there are other ways that we think that the federal government can help speed up capital investments in the DC Water infrastructure. And we are different. We're the nation's capital. And so we think that there is a role for the federal government in speeding up those investments. And I'll just say in particular, we, as you know, have been under probably a 10 or 12 year period, maybe 10-year period of time where we've made over $4 billion in DC Water has in new tunnels, which has really helped us improve the quality and the condition of our rivers. But that $4 billion was $4 billion not spent on other capital investment. And so we do see a role, and another reason to engage in a more coordinated discussion with the federal government is to start that conversation, not start, but continue the conversation about how they can be more helpful on DC Water assets. Yep.
Is there concern at all that this could impact, we have cherry blossom season, obviously, right next to the Potomac.
I'm kind of not going to address that because I need more information. Who hasn't asked? Yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Question for you then for Ms. Thiene and Mr. Hunter after. HUD made the request for all housing agencies across the country to do a review on validity as well as citizenship for those receiving federal funding on housing. They made another request to do that for all. What are your thoughts on this new request? I know the district has been checking this since the 80s with the law.
Can I have somebody else follow up with you about that?
I did speak with DC Housing already, but just your thoughts on this new request from HUD.
I'm not familiar with a new request, so let me have somebody follow up with you on that.
Okay, they did make the request in December about it, and it's due in March.
Okay, my answer is the same.
Okay. For Ms. Thiene and Mr. Hunter, you guys have, of course, done this community center. I remember in the fall you mentioned there's a list of others that you're excited to do and get done. In a lot of our talks about what the youth need for all the challenges they may face, you mentioned just more and more and more. What is your true vision for what the district, Ward 7, Ward 8, all the wards look like when your projects are completed?
Thank you for the question. I think, as Mayor Bowser said, each recreation center has its own personality and has its own set of amenities. And so our goal is always to maximize those amenities in the community. We do look at where our youth live, where they go to school, where they're willing to travel and hang out and participate. And so if it's our mobile studios, if it's our broadcasting, if it's our podcasting, if it's our e-gaming, we take all of those things into consideration. So our vision is really for every child to have access to what they desire.
Okay. Last couple. Mark and then Stephanie.
If I could just two quick questions. One, can you give us any update, or DC taxpayers any update on decoupling, or when there may be some firm guidance from the D.C. government now that President Trump has signed that? I know March 3rd is the end of the emergency legislation. CFO says he's waiting for the AG. Can you give any guidance to taxpayers?
I think the CFO will be the person who gives he's our tax man, and he's going to have to either affirm the tax date or announce a new one.
Do you have a timeline on when residents might hear from?
I will have to get back to him on when he expects to say that.
And then if I could just take another swing at my earlier question without
Yes.
editorializing as you answer.
Me?
I will not
Oh,
editorialize as you answer. Yeah, yes. Can you just explain why it has taken this long for you to address the public on the sewage spill, and why it seemed that members of your cabinet had downplayed the serious nature of this spill, and up until the last 48 hours, where it seems to be, it doesn't seem to be now, it's a public emergency?
Mark, I don't agree with your assessment that we downplayed it. We take it very seriously, and we have been following DC Water, who has been responding to the fix and the permanent fix, the long-term replacement of infrastructure, and what will be remediation. And there will be, necessary remediation around the site for sure. I regarded it as, in watching DC Water as the experts in this, need to talk about how the repair is going. And so to the extent that the communications hasn't been as rapid, that's regretful. And I certainly know that we can help in making sure people have as up-to-date information as we have, and communicate that through our offices or in support of DC Water.
I very much appreciate it. If I could just clarify, when you say the speed of information has been regretful, are you speaking about from DC government's response, or DC Water's response, or both are regretful?
No, I think that DC Water is the best agency to answer questions about the fix. And we certainly can, I certainly can explain what DC Water is doing and what the DC government is doing to support us, to support them. Our agencies, obviously, that are implicated are DC Health and DC Department of the Environment, and now our Homeland Security apparatus.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a clarification on another response, Mayor. You were talking about how there was discussion this week on, I guess, who, if they thought they could get approved, should submit for the disaster request. Does this have to do with politics, or is there something else that was involved here?
For me, it has to do with when I make a request, I want to get it approved. So we are kicking the tires from legal and operational vantage point of whether we can get it approved. So no, it doesn't have anything to do with politics.
Ms. Thiene, there's a community question for you here. A woman was asking, more so, if you could affirm to the community that kids are going to be welcome. This person, I don't know if she's still here, but she was mentioning there's frustration, apparently, that when kids go into rec centers, they're asked, how can I help you, and not just welcomed in. Can you speak to that?
I will say that all of our recreation centers, we serve young people all the time. We have after-school programs, summer camps, all throughout. So our recreation spaces are a safe, warming, and welcome space. Even during the snowstorm, we served people. So we don't close our doors to young people ever.
Do you think that might turn some kids away if they're stopped and asked? Do you think that might turn some kids away?
Our goal is to make sure that we program and offer amenities that young people will want to come inside.
Just really quick, you mentioned when you make a request, you wanted assurance in advance that it would be fulfilled, or that you would get a good response. And I'm wondering, were you at the meeting at the White House, or what assurance did you get from the White House and or FEMA that your request would be honored?
We haven't gotten any that it would be honored. What we usually do is talk through all the steps with our FEMA with our FEMA folks. But I have had, outreach from the president's team, and that would indicate to me that they're supportive of the request, and it's the president's decision.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.